Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is still out on assignment. I'm gonna have to do a health check on Mike. They keeping that busy out there doing his thing. I need to check on my boy. Make sure he all good. With that being said, Charles, how you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. It's beautiful afternoon here in Houston. Caught a little bit of baseball today. Caught a little bit of Texas Southern and Grambling over there at McGregor Park. A nice little 3-game series over there this weekend. So looking forward to a little baseball, a little golf this weekend.
I heard it was a good one. As you left out of there, it was 3-3, so they were getting down for this.
Yeah, it was. It was Grambling jumped out, or I should say Texas Southern jumped out 1-0. Then Grambling came back at the bottom of the inning, had a 3-run shot over the right field fence, almost hit the tennis court over there. And then Texas Southern was able to come back in the successive innings and played a couple runs. So when I was still over at the park, it was 3-3. So we'll see where it is by the end of the show.
What inning did you leave?
7th inning.
Oh, man. So it's a good one. It's going down to the wire. Good pitching. With that being said, let me do a proper introduction. Welcome to episode 496. 496. Countdown to 500 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast. The show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports, for institutions large and small. From HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host Mike Washington and Charles Bishop, filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KCWH 1230 AM studios with the Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Fame, Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. That being said, Charles, intriguing.
Well, let me jump in real quick and say this. We shout him out every show, Ralph Cooper, but on yesterday, he's celebrating 55 years of being on the air here in Houston. Living legend in terms of what Ralph Cooper has done. In terms of bringing to us HBCU athletics and athletics in general in and around Houston. But I definitely want to shout out to Ralph for all he's done with regards to radio.
Shout out to Ralph. Tell him again how many number of years he's been doing radio.
55 years on the radio. 55 years on the radio, Doc. I mean,
some of us hadn't even seen 55 years.
That unto itself is amazing, but he started back in March of 1969.
Yeah, I see Emmett puts that out there, and usually we talk more sports, but don't know how this may affect sports at Tennessee State. But yeah, I've heard the news. Tennessee's governor dissolves the Tennessee State board. I've followed it for a while. I get over there with Tennessee State. They even allow me to check out the board material, and so they've been talking about it a while. Quite disheartening to hear that news. You see, but when you get these ties and you start seeing things that just don't make sense, you're seeing the other things that happened in Tennessee State with the 3 lawmakers, 2 of them black, and how they were treated. And you come back and you see the president, everybody, for the most part, seeing they're doing really well. They asked, and you have the report with all 8 public HBCUs, how much independent states own this in the billions of dollars. Their board asked for the $1 billion. You see, they all of a sudden see that they're going to give them a small percentage of that in the millions. And next thing you know, you hear this fiasco talking about how they're going to make sure they tell them. Then you have a question about how they do finances. It really disturbs you. Some good reporting out there in terms of what that looks like. Quite frustrating to see that going on. So I did want to speak on that.
Quite frustrating, but I think the playbook is out there, Dr. Cavil, and I think we've talked about it. I mean, there's an attack on DEI in the state of Florida. And where do you hurt people? You hurt them in their pocketbooks. So athletes, why go to the state of Florida? Or athletes, why go to the state of Tennessee? I mean, we look across the South. We see these legislators or Mississippi. Exactly. I mean, there is a playbook on how to handle an attempt to turn back the clock, if you will. So.
Well said. I'm glad you said that. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THD Agency, is a company that provides sporting and education consulting and data analytics. With that being said, we do have some basketball news kind of close out. There's one team that is still bouncing the basketball in terms of that, and it happens to be a women's team, North Carolina A&T Aggies. We talked about on Tuesday how they won their game and they're moving forward in the WNIT tournament. But with that said, Norfolk played yesterday. Norfolk State ends the season with a win, Charles. Norfolk State overcoming a big deficit. When I seen Erd in that game and called it, I was quite nervous, particularly what happened on Tuesday. We'll let you share some updates on the Langston side of things. But they win the CIT championship, come back. They were losing at 10 at half, but they dug a bigger hole, cut it down. I think they were down 14-15 before that. They cut it down to 10 at half and really held them to under 30 points in the second half, 20-some points, and put up 40 of their own and won going away 75-67 as they defeat Purdue Fort Wayne. Big win for the Spartans. College Insider Tournament, CIT Championship. I watched it as they even cut down the net, so I really thought they did a good job. Great fan support out there. They got the bye early round, and in the second round they played Alabama A&M in the semifinals, which allowed them to even the series. There was 5 games played between SWAC and MEAC. I told you a little bit earlier. 5 of those games were in the preseason, 1 in the postseason. SWAC had came out of that 3-2, and Norfolk State got a chance to even things up in terms of going 3-3 in that matchup, and so that was a big deal in terms of what that looks like. Also, just to add a little bit on to that, is that means that the MEAC went 5-5. They went 500 also against all HBCUs. This is the men's program. SWAC went 6-4. They followed with that added loss, 6-4 overall against all HBCUs, but obviously finished 500 against the MEAC. Women finished 500 for the MEAC overall HBCU programs. This is Division I now against other Division I programs. They go 0-1 in the SWAC. SWAC goes 1-0 and 500 also against the overall D1 HBCU competition. So fascinating year when you look at that. It goes down. One of the last things we talked about coming out of Tuesday, how many points will Norfolk be able to push in terms of first place votes? Could they pick off 2 from Grambling? So it'll be fascinating as we unveiled it on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Can they pick off 2 votes from Grambling to leapfrog them, essentially what they do, because they're currently sitting at 2. Again, they're one of the few programs, maybe the only program, depending on what A&T women do, particularly on the men's side. They're going to be the only program to end the season with a win. Everybody can usually say that, but they'll be able to say that. So that's big news. Again, with the Langston loss, they can't even say that at the mid-major level, as close as they came. So I'm fascinated to see how this jumped out. Had a couple of comments on X, formerly known as Twitter, about that thought process. Person said they could see it going different ways. Some people would be upset. I'm sure they will, but it'd be fascinating just to see how it comes out. I'm not sure yet. Again, I'm going to have my vote in, but other folks, I don't control their vote, so we'll see what that looks like when it comes out. Emmett Jones says, congratulations, Norfolk State HBCU's basketball champions. Yes, they are. We'll see what happens in terms of Dr. Cavil's HBCU champion. We'll see what that looks like. That doesn't come out to Tuesday. So, hold your horses. Hold your horses. Get in there. Any early thoughts that you have on that before we get into it a little more?
Very impressive. Norfolk State down by 18 and be able to fight back and win the championship. But I think we touched on it on Tuesday. I mean, hanging banners, that means something. So Norfolk State, they get to hang a CIT championship banner. And like you said, you build a campaign around we hang banners around here. We win championships. So I think that was huge. That's huge from a branding standpoint for Norfolk State.
I will say this: Grambling gets to say they're going to hang a banner too. They have a first four. They get a victory in the NCAA tournament. They get hang a banner that they won regular season and postseason championship. So they'll likely hang those banners and the NCAA tournament. So they'll hang 3 banners, just like Norfolk State. They will hang regular season championship and a CIT championship banner. So. Be interesting to see what that means. We'll see. I'm just saying.
I'm already looking forward to Tuesday. I want to see what happens.
Well, give us your updates in terms of Langston. Obviously, that game on Tuesday didn't go quite the same go as well. They literally are up 6 points with just over a minute left in the game and the ball. And the ball slips out of the guard play as he towards to go to basket. As they run down the clock, which you would certainly think they should do. He has to put up a shot just before the clock ends and doesn't touch the rim. So he gets a shot clock violation, and the rest does not go their way literally until the end of the game, where they ultimately lose with Freed-Hardeman, I should say, goes on a 10-point run to win the game. Charles?
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on it. I mean, Freed-Hardeman, you can make this a great case. They snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. I mean, they were down 67-61 with about 55 seconds left to go in that game. And, that HBCU pride was welling up. You were looking at the Langston fans. They were cheering. The bench was up. Everything was going.
Pep band was doing what they do with the
Pep band was doing what they were doing. And then it happened. And it happened like almost like watching a car wreck of some sort. In the next 55 seconds, Freed-Hardeman, they pressed. They were able to get some turnovers. They were able to get some and ones, and you looked up and the lead had evaporated. And it was amazing to watch. Tough way to end the season. Langston, we've talked about them all throughout the season in terms of being one of the not just best mid-major programs, but one of the best HBCU programs we've watched all season. I mean, tremendous season, 34 wins going into that game, and just a tough way to lose it. They were literally 55 seconds away from NAIA championship, but we salute them on a tremendous title run, and it just came up short just there at the end.
Yeah, I even had to get my buddies involved, our frat brothers, Mark Fleming, Langston alumni, along with brother Coach Tony Green. That coach is as assistant coach to Baylor, and I got them as they were in the semifinals and reached out to them. We connected way back when we were in school, and Tony and I connected at a party in Langston that I didn't even realize that he threw, that Mark took me to when we were going up there with Prairie View in those days, and it's lasted ever since then. But then Tony and I reconnect through another frat brother of ours that's over as assistant coach at Alcorn State, one of the Alabama A&M that's in the group text that we have, and shout out to them as I met him through the Twins and things of that nature. Well, they were at that time coaching in the Red River Athletic Conference at Langston. Tony Green was there, assistant coach, coaching the women's basketball under the guidance of the current athletic director at Langston. And then you had a coach over there at Texas College, had a coach at Wiley College. So it's fascinating when Jarvis Christian, Tony Green connects and comes a assistant coach at Grambling, then moves over here at Texas Southern University under legendary coach Cynthia Cooper. And then he moves around, goes up north a little bit, Mississippi, finally lands over there at the SWAC. And in terms of what that looks like. So that's fascinating when you talk about all the things going on there. So I was really connected with that thing. So I got them all into it, and they're hyped and ready to go back. Tony does a great job when he goes up there and celebrates the kid after the team and the coach after a tough loss, and donates $1,000 to the program to show his pride and making sure people understand that this is the time they need even more support moving forward. I even donated to Langston because I just like the way he did that. But yeah, that's a connection. And then you go through that. I'm going through my different groups. A group that I'm involved that has more MEAC fans in it, generally speaking, that's on X, formerly known as Twitter, in the group chat. And I got another group chat in terms of the group me, which are previous folks of the Honor Don that still honor Eric. And those obviously are mostly SIAC with some CIAA fans. They on there cheering for Langston. You got your Facebook group people that on there cheering for Langston. You got our BCSN group cheering for Langston. So I'm going through all these different groups that are connected to HBCUs and different facets, and they're all on the chain. Everybody's excited. And I hadn't seen the air pop that you talked about in that. That were fascinating and focusing on the HBCU culture, if you would, in terms of celebrating. No matter if they were part of CIAA, SIAC, MEAC, SWAC, different ways that they were on social media, they were all in. Obviously, those that are part of HBCU Game Day and their news component, what they do, HBCU Sports and the site that they have in the blog, all these folks are connected and ready to jump out of their seat. And it just does not quite happen. So it was almost a study that I look at in terms of their fandom and how they were let down. I could not even sleep. You know, people were talking about they were this and that. I could not sleep. I woke up that morning in the middle of the night and just consternation, if you would. And then it got worse. I got this dog that barks in the back, and you sleep, you good. You don't worry about it. What you know, barking. And it took me an hour to get back to sleep. I was just nah. I could not play back that last minute. I kept playing back that last minute. And I pitched you because we on our group, and he's like, man, I can't get it on ESPN. So I'm taking shots of the game in that last minute through the phone and then posting it on my other iPad so he can see it. And then I was just doing it in clips. So every time I played clock stop, I would stop it and then bring it back on. So it was like a slow death.
Wow.
In terms of what took place. And so
it
was
tough.
Just crazy. It was tough.
Yeah.
With that being said. But we'll get back into it. Let's get a little baseball, take our first break. We'll come back on the other side. See if you have any final thoughts, and then we'll get into some baseball. Before we do that, did want to talk about intriguing football is still out there getting into spring football. Morgan State to hold joint spring football practice with the University of Maryland. I thought that was kind of interesting. See how that happened, what took place, something to think about. North Carolina Central has field turf. O'Kelly Riddick Stadium upgrades for HBCU Game Day. I got a chance to see the new turf at Prairie View. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the baseball segment as they took on Texas Southern, tell you how that went. So University of Florida assistant hired at Hampton. And so the women's coach at Hampton University has a basketball coach now. So fascinating to see with that. And then obviously the third annual HBCU All-Star Game announces the rosters and coaches and honorees from the SWAC, MEAC, CIAA, SIAC, and independents. So fascinating to see how that will happen. That is in Arizona, where the Final Four is this year. It's at Grand Canyon University, Global Credit Union Arena at 1 p.m. So it'll be fascinating to see how that goes down. Excited. Remember, just last year was here in Houston with the Final Four and was played at Texas Southern University. Huge crowds came out for that, so it'll be fascinating to see how things, and it's broken down into Team Rick Mahorn and Team Ben Wallace in regards to the coaches, Lavelle Mouton with North Carolina Central, Alfred Jordan, Clark Atlanta University program, men's basketball pro. So Coach Johnny Jones on the opposite side, and Jason Armstead and Coach Johnny Jones, obviously a Texas Southern Jason Armstrong of Lincoln University, and that's the Pennsylvania, the CIAA. With that, let's take our first break. We'll come back on to the side, get into some of these baseball updates. We have some rainout games. Looks like some teams decided to push it to get these games in. We'll give you some updates to what that looks like, as Brian is sharing us, and we'll provide some of that stuff on the other side. Stick with us as we take this first break. We'll come back and give you some more updates.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Charles, I want to get your thoughts in terms of SWAC baseball. The last couple of weeks, you get in your second weekend of games. We'll break down in terms of what that schedule looked like and some scores this past weekend. I kind of started on the home side of things right here in greater Houston area, including Prairie View with that. Yeah, Texas Southern going out to Prairie View for those matchups. Texas Southern that went down to Southern the previous weekend got that victory over there. The other games got rained out. But they headed down with their collision course with the rivals of Prairie View that had swept Pine Bluff that same weekend that they in Texas Southern took on, if you would, their programs there in terms of Southern, Prairie View, and Texas Southern. Texas Southern took 2 out of 3, won the game 13-3 on Friday, won an 8-6 close game. My understanding, Coach Mike Robb got tossed out of that game.
Hey, he was working the ups today.
So hold on 8-6 to get it done. But he sounded like he got upset, I guess, on Sunday and put in some more punishment as Texas Southern had a 13-run inning. One player there on the team hit a grand slam, came back in the same inning. When I say came back, it was the same inning and hit a double. They scored 2, bases loaded again. This time he had a double, had 2 more RBIs. So he had 6 RBIs in an inning. Charles, you're talking about today. And if the guy that was on first was a little faster, the way the ball was hit, you could argue that that guy should have scored there. They played it safe because he was a little slower running around that corner. So he could have had a home run and a double with 3 RBIs. But until he got 2, I guess 6 RBIs in the inning is not bad. Any thoughts in terms of hearing that? outcome before you get into some other matchups there?
Well, I mean, thus far, I mean, when you take a look at the standings, I mean, you got Texas Southern impressive weekend against Prairie View, but Southern and Grambling, they've jumped out over in the West. They're undefeated thus far in the West. Grambling 5-0 coming into this weekend versus Texas Southern. Southern at 3-0. And then you got Prairie View sitting right there at 4-2, and Texas Southern 2-1. You got some rain out days, but we talk about the SWAC East all the time with regards to Jackson State, Bethune-Cookman, FAMU, and Alabama State. And Jackson State has jumped out. 19-5 record, got a couple of impressive wins, midweek wins over Butler and the University of Memphis, but 19-5 thus far in the season, and a sweep of Alabama State. So that's something that's really kind of turned my heads. And then when you take a look at the team overall, it's a very new team, but already they're raking. I mean, they're batting .315 as a team. They're tops in the league in terms of stolen bases. They've already stolen 88 bases, and then pretty good fielding team, one of the top fielding teams in the SWAC. So so far, early first poll of the season, Jackson State and Bethune-Cookman are looking really, really good in the East, and then on the opposite side, Grambling and Southern, both undefeated thus far in the West. So it's taking shape a little bit differently than I kind of expected thus far.
Well, let me give you these outcomes as we get into these matchups, so you can get a little more detail, in particular, just particular teams, as you did a really good job in terms of giving an overview of last week coming into this week, in terms of total records. I want to break down what took place for those that just taking a glossary look at baseball. On Friday, I told you what happened between Prairie View and Texas Southern. You actually had the rivalry games in a lot of ways. When you had Alabama A&M versus Alabama State, you had FAMU versus Bethune-Cookman. Both teams, FAMU came in there looking good as well as Bethune-Cookman, so that was a huge series.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama State played A&M close, 3-2 in terms of that matchup on Friday. Yeah, Bethune-Cookman defeating FAMU and holding them scoreless 6-0 in terms of that matchup there. And then you had a West Division matchup between Southern and Alcorn State. Southern got that 10-2 in terms of the Friday matchups. Then you move into Saturday, and you have some problem with the water in terms of rain. Washing some of these games here in terms of what happened on those matchups on Saturday, as only a couple of games could get in there. So I wanted to give you some scores of what that looks like in terms of Alabama, A&M, and State playing games there. Computer's a little slow here in terms of giving you those updates. Let me see if I can get this going here a little bit. 1 second.
Well, I mean, and you mentioned Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M, and that was a game that I was kind of particularly paying attention to, especially the Friday starters. Tanner Bocabello, I believe he was a SWAC pitcher of the week this past week. He started off 3-0 thus far for Bethune-Cookman, but he went up against Caleb Granger, which is one of the arms that FAMU is really going to be relying on this upcoming season. So that was a game that last Friday, that really kind of turned my head, because you shut out FAMU. That's saying something, because they can hit the baseball, and they've already proved thus far that they have the ability to do that. I think they lead the SWAC in home runs early here in the season. So they got a lot of guys up and down that lineup that can go deep with the baseball, and we saw that last season, especially in the SWAC tournament when those guys got hot. They were knocking the ball all over the place over there at Georgia Tech.
To your point with Bethune-Cookman, they got the game on Saturday too. That one went in the innings. They got some big hits late in that game on Saturday to defeat FAMU. And so I'm looking to Sunday is like, is Bethune-Cookman going to sweep FAMU to open up this series down in Daytona? No, not quite like that. As I'm coming home, I'm listening to that game as it goes into extra innings, just like Saturday's contest. But this time, Bethune-Cookman had a chance late in that game in terms of what that looks like, and couldn't scratch over the runs. FAMU comes back in the top of that 11 and gets a run on the board as they win to make sure they avoid that sweep as they lose on Saturday 7-6. Jackson State jumps on Mississippi Valley, winning 14-4. Grambling is beating up on Arkansas Pine Bluff 6-3, and they actually get 2 games in on Saturdays. The other one, they come back and defeat Pine Bluff 7-5. I told you about Prairie View getting Texas Southern 8-6. Southern pounds Alcorn State, the Braves 14-7, and Jackson State takes 2 on Saturday away from Valley 8-5 in that second contest. Alabama A&M gets one from Alabama State. That kind of surprised me.
That's surprising.
On the board, low scoring game. You don't see Alabama State putting up a lot of runs. We told you the first one 3-2. You're like, okay, and you come back and A&M wins this one 3-1. So that was fascinating when you talk about Saturday. I'm sure that kind of surprised you with Alabama A&M getting one from Alabama State. What are your thoughts in terms? It seems like Alabama State may be struggling a little bit. Jackson State would say, hey, no, we got ours, but they took 2 of them. One of them rained out. But then you come back. Yeah, it's a rivalry game. Maybe that's a little bit of it, but you lose one early. So they just won in 3 on the early season there.
Yeah, I mean, for Alabama State to have lost 3 games already in SWAC play, that is completely surprising. And they brought back quite a bit from last season in terms of both pitching and hitting. So, it's surprising to see Alabama State thus far basically sitting at 4th in the SWAC standings, looking up at FAMU, Bethune-Cookman, and Jackson State. Very interesting series this weekend. Jackson State goes to Tallahassee to take on FAMU, so very interested in those scores this weekend. But, yeah, I mean, that's completely surprising. Jackson State doesn't go to Montgomery and sweep Alabama State. You just don't see that in recent years. So that was very surprising to see that thus far. And then, like you said, they dropped one to Alabama A&M. That was totally shocking.
They do bounce back. It's on Sunday. They shut them out 7-0. So now they're 2-3 on the season. You got Grambling that just rolls over Pine Bluff. People putting up a lot of runs against Grambling as Prairie View had multi-games with those crooked letters, as they said, getting up into the teens for those games. Grambling won 17-2. FAMU does get the win in 11, 3-2 over Bethune-Cookman to avoid the sweep. Texas Southern pounds Prairie View 17-3. Jackson State gets a close win over Valley, but they get it done 5-4. Southern puts up 19 over Alcorn State, 19-4. So coming out of that weekend, Jackson State is leading the East 5-0. I'm not sure people saw this. You talked about them being 19-5 early on, getting a couple of good other Division I wins. They have won 3 straight games. Bethune-Cookman, in terms of their win streak, Bethune-Cookman is 4-1 on the season. FAMU at 4-2. Alabama State 2-3. You talked about Alabama A&M at 1-5. Mississippi at 0-4. Going to the West, Southern is 3-0. 3-1 with their loss to Texas Southern in their matchup. Grambling is 5-0 in terms of one rainout game there. Prairie View is 4-2. Texas Southern in terms of 3-1 in terms of getting 1 in Southern and then 2 down in Prairie View, taking 2-3 in that season. Could be interesting what's going on now. Find out who came out of that game. Alcorn State at 1-5 and Pine Bluff at 0-7 in terms of those matchups. Struggling early there. Any thoughts in terms of these standings? I know it's early, it's just second week. Anything stands out particularly? Obviously, you mentioned a little bit about Alabama State. Anything else outside of that?
And I always take a look at this with regards to SWAC baseball, but they normally lead the country in stolen bases. It's the brand of baseball that we see in the SWAC. But Jackson State thus far, 99 attempts, they swiped 89 bags. So that has to be, I haven't checked the national standings, but that has to be right up there because they are are by quite some bit ahead in terms of stolen bases in the SWAC, 89 of 99. Like I said, it's been for them to be pretty much a new team. They have 2 or 3 hitters batting over 400 as a team. They batting 315. It's a team that I did not expect 19-5 thus far in the season through the first quarter poll of the season.
No, that's a good one, Jackson State. It's no way I thought that. I knew they would play tenacious baseball. I know they would be in some matchups, but I can't say that I would give them the credit they would be undefeated, particularly knowing that their first game series was against Alabama State. I believe they could have won the series, but to take 2 of them, obviously the third game wasn't played there.
Right.
And so you don't know what happened in that. But basically they come out of there undefeated. I don't think I would have thought that they would have came out of the game undefeated, whether it was 2-0 or 3-0 in terms of that matchup. So wanted to give some credit there in terms of what that looks like. Let's take our next break. We'll come back on the other side and talk about some of the games this weekend. A couple of teams are playing early, starting things on Thursday so they can get that Easter Sunday off. That included that included Texas Southern Grambling. Obviously, should be fascinating to see what takes place there. Both of those are playing some really good baseball. So stick with us on the other side, and we'll tell you some of the other matchups to keep your eyes on early in the season.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong. Go get 'em! It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, clean bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messages quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Mills inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment. Talking a little HBCU baseball Division I, mainly from the SWAC perspective. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the matchups coming in this weekend, and everybody is starting their games on Thursday to make sure they get outside of that Easter Sunday weekend, which I love the fact that they've moved this. We saw this trend a couple of years ago where a couple of teams pushed it. I noticed first seeing it here out of the greater Houston, but now to see all the teams doing, I think it's a great move. With that being said, we told you about the Grambling Texas Southern matchup. Alcorn State is traveling to Pine Bluff. So they have a game that started today at 4. Yeah, Prairie View at Texas Southern. I'm really fascinated to see what takes place there. Can Prairie View bounce back? Southern obviously had a big weekend last weekend, so I'm sure they feeling a little better about themselves. Obviously, they dropped that one the first week to Texas Southern, got the rest of them rained out. So we couldn't get a great indication of just what that meant in terms of Southern or Texas Southern. Some people thought Southern probably started a little slow in terms of what they did in non-conference play, but it's conference time, and they usually find a way to wake up. You got a good series here, Charles. I know you got one eagle eye on this. Jackson State at FAMU. We got an update in here with FAMU up big in that game, 7-0 in the top of the league is a score that we have there. We have Alabama A&M and Bethune-Cookman. It's early. Let me say that again, but a little surprise. Alabama A&M up on Bethune-Cookman 2-0.
Wow. Okay.
Top of the first, though. Top of the first.
Interesting.
But the fact they jumped out of there, hey, that says something there. And then you have Alabama State and Mississippi Valley State. Now, this is an intriguing one to me. I think we'll get an indication to see is Alabama just in terms of the competition they played early. Alabama A&M looks to be better in terms of what they came in this year. Obviously, Jackson State is solid, but Valley is still working to work around in the shape. So I'm looking at the indication not only to see if Alabama State can get these wins. They certainly need them to kind of put themselves back in the mix, particularly with Alabama A&M right behind them. Remember, only the top 4 teams go on the SWAC championship, and I know it's really early. But this is an indication to let you know in terms of if not only they get those 3, how they fare against Valley to me in this matchup. You expect to maybe Valley give you one good game where they close out, and you got to find a way to still beat them in that game.
Yeah.
Because you can't afford to drop it with all the other competition you got. But also in the rest of the games that you jump on them and win, you want to kind of see you can put up some numbers and beat them solidly. So if this is indication here. So that's one eye in a weird way that I have on Alabama State Valley game.
Yeah.
Give me your thoughts on a couple of these matchups. Which one you're looking at and why?
Jackson State FAMU is intriguing. I think, like I said, the hot start that Jackson State has had thus far in SWAC play, and then we talk about the gauntlet that is the SWAC East. These are of the top 4 teams in the SWAC East. These are 2 of the 4 playing this weekend, Jackson State and FAMU. Grambling State and Texas Southern is intriguing. And if Thursday's any indication, it's going to be a great weekend crowd for this series. A lot of few Grambling alums out there at McGregor today cheering on their team. So looking forward to that series the rest of the week. And I think now that you've mentioned Alabama A&M, they took one from Alabama State. This is intriguing with them going to Daytona Beach this weekend to take on Bethune-Cookman. Let's see what Alabama A&M is really about. Let's see if they can make any noise. And instead of us talking about top 4 teams in the SWAC East, we might have to include one more if they got an impressive showing down there this weekend at Daytona.
Good stuff there. Just want to put this out there before we go into our last segment where you get to ask the question of the day. We're going to get that in here a little early, make sure we cover it. But give you some Northeast Conference with the former MEAC members playing. I want to give you some updates on that. You have Delaware State at Norfolk State with some game with the series there. They're playing 2 on Friday there. But you have Coppin State is on the road to Lemoyne. You have Maryland Eastern Shore, if you would, on the road also at Fairleigh Dickinson's in terms of those matchups. Obviously, want to give an update in terms of North Carolina A&T. It's really playing some good baseball in terms of what they're looking like in the Coastal in terms of their matchup as they continue to get it done, talking about what looks like in the Big Nine, in the Black College Nine, top 10 that came up last week. Before we do that, you have UNC Wilmington at North Carolina A&T. So it'll be interesting to see if those bats can stay hot. Really good pitching for A&T in terms of what they looks like. When you talk about the March 17th release of the top poll, North Carolina A&T is at the top of that poll. They've been swinging back, playing some football. As what they did last year, they probably surprised a lot of folks. You had them down in the series where they lost the opener to Prairie View in that match, a really close game. They bounced back and get 2 and pound Southern in that matchup when you talk about MLB HBCU Classic Series. So they took 2 out of 3 there. Prairie View went 3-0. So fascinating to see what took place in some of those matchups. But let me give you the top 10 in terms of the large school for Black College Nines. This is March 17th. Again, that's number 10, Mississippi Valley State. At number 9, Grambling State. At number 8, Texas Southern University. Number 7, Norfolk State. At number 6, Alabama State. Top 5, FAMU. At number 4, Prairie View. At number 3, Bethune-Cookman. At number 2, Jackson State. Number 1, North Carolina A&T. Let me give you a caveat here. This goes back to 17. So if you had a series played, midweek games as well, and obviously some of them actually playing some games today. So you had a couple of series, 4 or 5 games that was in play since that's been released. So fascinating to see there. But I do like to kind of get that update as they do every 2 weeks. And then they get deeper in the series where they start giving a week in terms of Black College 9. Small school division, get some love for these guys here. Top 10, Lane College. Number 9, Miles College. Number 8, Jarvis Christian. Number 7, West Virginia State. Number 6, Bluefield State. Top 5 programs, Charles. Edward Waters down there in Florida. And number 4, Talladega College. And number 3, Savannah State. And number 2, Florida Memorial. Number 1, Alabama State. I'm going to talk about some of these NAIA programs over here in the state of Texas. You got to get the weight up a little bit, man. You look like getting it done. With that being said, any comments you said when we talk about these independent poll rankings programs in terms of what they're getting done thus far early part of the season as they start to get in the conference race as well?
Give me the top 3 again. The top 3 things.
Top 3 things in the mid-major, major.
Mid-major.
Mid-major, number 3, Savannah State.
Okay.
Number 2, Florida Memorial, another Florida school.
Yeah.
So Florida has an NAIA and a Division II program in the top 5. Mm-hmm. We saw what they do in the Black College World Series. They get down as they've won the last 2, basically, at least going down the stretch. And number 1 is Albany State. AD has told us a little bit about keeping your eyes on Albany State as they get down.
Because they're getting some. Albany State is getting some national love with regards to other baseball rankings and whatnot. But that's so far so good in terms of some programs doing some big things with regards to baseball. You mentioned Albany State, Savannah State. Something about that part of Georgia. They playing some great baseball over that way, huh?
Good stuff. Georgia, you're right. They play some good baseball. Fascinating when you talk about that mid-major, what they call small division. Don't always get the kind of love, so it's fascinating there. Before we close this segment, we can give you an update, final, FAMU 10, JSU 1. Be interesting to see, can JSU bounce back tomorrow?
Yeah.
Or will FAMU continue to roll? Big statement by FAMU as they kind of bounce back after losing 2 out of 3 before Cookman. Jackson State came in red hot. So fascinating to see. Keep our eyes on that. Sticker will be back after our last break. We'll come back on the other side and have a question of the day, and we'll call it the evening.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort. with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
As technology continues to bring changes to the world of education, it's time we also reimagine teacher professional development. Gone are the days of one-size-fits-all learning that can only be accessed at a specific time and place. The Stride PD Center is an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that allow educators to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. The best professional development plans are those that include a level of flexibility and choice for educators. Whether you're a teacher, school, or district, visit us today to take charge of your learning.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Wills inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I'd be remiss since we talked all this baseball if I didn't open up with this, with the Houston Astros right here in the backyard, 3 o'clock game. You know, I was going to sneak out to that, see if I could rush you around, but you talked me out of it. It's already to make sure we go over there and see HBCU sports. And needing to do what I was here with a lot of our doctoral students doing their dissertation defense. So I did get over there, and I had a graduate meeting with the provost. So I stuck to the core and made sure we got the work done. Yankees win 5-4. Juan Soto throws out runner in 9th of Yankees debut 5-4 win over Astros.
Oh, wow.
Get the win. So big contest there. Houston jumped out 3-0 in the first inning, put up another run in the second for their 4 runs, but they get blanked the rest of the game, including obviously that big out in the 9th as they were trying to tie it up. Yankees put up 3 in the 5th, a solo in the 6th, and another run in the 7th, which ultimately became the winning run there. So just give you some MLB. Shout out to MLB bros as they get it done in terms of what they get done, and showing that I have a little skills myself. I know we focus on HBCUs, but we can talk a little bit about the pro sports as well. So with that being said, turn it over. I want to show out on the NBA side. I had that as well since we just came out of basketball season and they're getting ready to get into the playoffs in terms of what that looks like. We'll do that on another day. Charles, get your question of the day in before I show out too much here.
No doubt. Well, let's take a look at it. And here's the question. Jackson State UConn women's basketball game was one of the most watched of the NCAA tournament last weekend. UConn's 86-64 win last Saturday over Jackson State averaged 1.1 million on ABC, which was the 3rd most viewed first-round game on record according to ESPN. And according to ESPN, Doc, 1.5 billion total minutes were viewed on television and streaming platforms during the first round, and that is the most on record in women's tournament history, a 70% increase from last year. And I just want to ask a question in regards to, are we in the midst of a renaissance, if you will, in regards to women's basketball? I mean, we've had some iconic eras when you take a look at Pat Summitt, Gino Auriemma, but this seems a little bit different.
I definitely believe it's a little different. Obviously, the focus is on there with great teams, great coaches, but now you're seeing more of an interest of players, this second generation of great players. You had a unique environment of what took place coming out of last year with some big games in the Final Four on the women's side that kind of pushed people's interest and saw what could take place. And it looks like ESPN, ABC, other programs, news have kind of doubled down. You had a great regular season. in terms of South Carolina, seeing if they can bounce back. Really playing some good basketball, obviously, with Caitlin out there, what she's doing, the Storms. And then the other thing that I thought was really nice is the fact that you have some freshmen. Juju, USC, freshman over there at South Carolina. And then you break that down in terms of what you see in the SWAC, and you see SWAC programs doubling up. Jackson State bouncing back after losing in the semifinals a year ago to go undefeated in the regular season, go undefeated in the tournament, get some big regular season victories. And I think all that galvanized with the HBCU fandom. You don't just bring Jackson State. You bring that whole culture with you. UConn is Enigma. Becker, in terms of what she did bouncing back, a lot of people are seeing her. This is a freshman player of the year. Obviously, Caitlin has taken a lot of that, but you have these focus and you have these key matchups. So people are focusing on that, and you double down, and now you shift. So all these games being on ESPN, this tells you also an indication of just how powerful of putting something on ABC or your main programs, NBC, CBS, and what it does. So that audience is there to watch it. And you have a lot of people that just focus in the area, you get it done there. So that's part of it too.
Let me follow up with this question. With the SWAC going to a format next year of women's basketball on a Thursday, double on a Saturday, and then men back on a Monday. But just to focus for one night completely on women's basketball, how big do you think the scheduling format will be for, especially HBCU in the SWAC, I should say?
I think it's going to be interesting. You know, I pushed from a television perspective, but I think even now that I've dug in a little deeper, that even from a fan base perspective, you know, SWAC had the program where you had your programs, travel partners, if you would, use that framework. So when Prairie View, Texas Southern, they were both home. So you have HBCU fans that would love to see Prairie View or Texas Southern. And some of those fans that would be hungry if they couldn't watch on TV, they would drive down to Prairie View or vice versa. People on the outside, Cypress, Prairie View area would drive up to Texas Southern if they didn't have the conflict. Well, I was pushing to have Thursday games, but I looked at maybe splitting the Monday games. And so instead of having both Alabama A&M and Alabama State coming down here and they played Saturday and then Sunday and switch it up, that you would have one come in early. So you'd have Alabama A&M come in early on a Thursday, for example, and then they would play Texas Southern in Houston. They would go down to Prairie View on Thursday, and then they would be in Houston on Saturday, while you would have Alabama State at Prairie View on Saturday, and then Houston on Monday. So you would have both men's and women's. But to your point, I think you get a similar dynamic where now you put the women on showcase with the interest. I think there's enough fans, while people are scared that you're actually asking fans to go see 3 games. I think they're going to be excited about that. I think those fans that are really interested and supportive would like to see more of them. And now they get 3 days a week, every 2 weeks, if you think about it, right? Normally, you have to wait 2 weeks to get 2 games. Now, 4 games. You still get the same 4 games, but you got 3 nights you get to get out of the house, get to arena, to get into that culture that we see, as I showed you with the class question you asked with A&T, that people want to be around that. They want to be excited about that. So regardless if it's the women or the men, well, a lot of people kind of being nervous about the fact that the men won't play, I think this thing will actually be more receptive than people originally thought when they just kind of had their gut feeling. So, yeah, I think it's fascinating, particularly when you look at everything surrounding where women's basketball is right now. I think this is a perfect time to make that leap in the focus. So I'm glad you added that question in there from the standpoint that that's a different perspective I've been flirting with a little bit, and I got a chance to kind of voice it to the people to say, don't be too nervous. I think this might work out better than what people originally thought when they're nervous about the fact that you're splitting up the women and asking the fans to do more. I think they'll be welcome to that opportunity.
Sure thing, no doubt.
With that being said, let's close it up. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from Inside the Lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington Charles Bishop. We hope you enjoyed the show. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday right here at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Brian?
Lecture.
Dismiss. He all happy about that 10-1. He striking.
We still got 2 more games to play. What?
Tell him.